It's not just, it becomes almost, again, complicit in this kind of performance. And then we have the idea of the frame, the cinematic frame. Again, the cinematic frame and our relationship with the audience, from a sound point of view, you've got kind of three elements, which always people talk about. That is sound effects, music, and dialogue. Now, traditionally, sound effects and dialogue inhabited the space, the action of the frame. Whereas music, it has another kind of ability. It's almost like this large vapor. It's this almost a cloud of information that floats around between, and it acts as a kind of conduit between the audience and the imagery. So you have this floating mass, which is quite interesting. Now, as soon as you go to something like Fulldome, you break that convention, you break the frame, and you start to ask yourselves, we're out of conventional cinema now, we're into a new kind of way, use a new kind of treatment, new kind of language. So my reckoning is that we can take certain aspects from, as I say, the cinema, but we can also incorporate new areas of experience. You know, what do you do with sound? It used to inhabit beyond the frame. It was outside the frame. Where is it now? There's no frame. We've got this world of imagery around us. Where are sound effects? Where's the dialogue? Is it in the image? Is it outside the image? So you've got these kind of very interesting dialogues going on. And what I'm going to try and do is this. We're going towards Mr. Thin. I'm going towards this idea of embodied sound. This is my answer to the thing. Instead of the old, where we had sound effects and music and everything was sort of demarked a bit, I wanted this idea that we're going towards a new kind of language that contains, say, the information of sound effect and also the emotional qualities of music. So we're going to this kind of fusion there. And I think it will create a different kind of sensibility towards the screen. So this is what I call embodied sound, this new approach where, as I say, it's more like a vapor, a cloud, where these two things fuse. Part of the zeitgeist at the moment, particularly at the turn of the 21st century, is this shift from yang to yin, this idea of the all-seeing culture becoming an all-listening culture. And part of that culture is this convergence of different kinds of music. One of the things I like about the new generation of sound and music is that it incorporates both. It incorporates sound effects, it's got synthetic sound, it's got orchestrated sound. It has a whole range of different kinds of sounds. And one of the areas that we talk about often is this idea of ambient music. And ambient music is kind of, to me, the key to this kind of synergy between the sound effects and traditional music. Let's move on. So I'm going towards a new sonic language in this. The other aspect of this idea of converged sound is this fused state. And again, it's this idea of sound effects as music and music as sound effects. And they're fused states, and they can work in conjunction with the embodied sound. Embodied sound sort of sets the parameters. This is a kind of technique to use that. One of the you might know the sound designer Walter Murch, great figure in sound design, and he's come at this fabulous, I think, one of the great graphs. And what it is on the left you've got this information, and on the right you have emotion. It's the left brain, right brain kind of thing. And on the left you've got encoded sound, and on the right embodied sound. At the moment, I think with Fulldome, we're kind of shifting too much to the left. What I want to do with Fulldome is try and readdress the balance and shift the emphasis right over here. For instance, up in the centre there, you've got something like the vocal of a voice. The vocal of a voice carries both information and mood and emotional qualities which we respond to. So it's this idea that embodied sound can again regenerate the connections we have with the audience. I'm going to talk a bit about space now. With cinema, we have the idea of fictive space and different kinds of fictive space. You buy into the fiction space. And what you have there is this number of kind of layers of sound. And these can be layers from the acoustic, you can get depth perception in sound, or we've got what I call illusionary sound, which is the sound, for instance, or the environment that something like a Debussy piece of music creates. This seascape. It's neither acoustic, it's just an impressionistic thing. And then on the right we have real space, which is the reality of it. And in the middle, I have a look at this idea of dome space. What I'm looking at and exploring is this idea of simultaneous spaces. Whereas before we've got this idea of cinema, and we're talking about one kind of space, you're buying into a space beyond the frame. We've actually have this huge arena here, and we can start chopping the space up. So before, what we often find in a lot of these dome experiences, that the sounds are flying all about, all over the place. What I'm looking at is the idea of controlling the sound and trying to compartmentalize it. And I'm trying to look at various areas of simultaneous sound we can look at. And then I'm going to look at the idea of dynamic spaces using sound. I just imagine, again, there's this huge cloud in which sounds move around and can create pieces of architecture. Yes. I've got this, in my previous life, I used to do a lot of work in site-specific work in opera. And a lot of my actual research work, or a lot of my experience in this area, comes from various kinds of opera. And I'm just going to flick through some of these, just to give you some idea of where my mind comes from, and where I'm going with these kind of things. This is a 5-paper suit opera. It was created, it was an interactive work about cycling based on a velodrome. And what it did was there, if you see the velodrome there, what you've got in the centre there is a core of the performance area, and on the outside, the first ring coming out of that, you've got the actual velodrome. Now, these have wide for sound cycles, and they enable the sound as an experience to be floated round the perimeter of the track. So you've got this thing, and then you've got various rings. Beyond that, beyond the actual track, you've got a ring of tannoy systems. Beyond that, you've got the audience. Now, the audience can experience it from outside the rings or within the rings between those rings. So we've got that kind of interesting idea of real sound and the sort of acoustic sound. Let's move on. It's not working. The last broadcast. This is another piece, an interactive piece. Again, looking at the idea of rings of sound, and this actually involved, what you see there is some robotics, and these robots would work. This was actually around in a dome with anamorphic projection. This is at about 1992, so we're actually going back some time here. And what you've got here is this idea of these performers, are robotic performers in opera, on large booms, and they traverse over the audience. So in a sense, the audience, again, are part or complicit in the experience. Moving on, this is just images of the thing. As you can see there, again, the sound map is this idea that you've got these two moving booms. Beyond that, you've got an area that an audience in the round, and beyond that, you've got a normal surround sound. So you've got actually physical fixed points, a moving sound, and the actual surround system. So you've got a blend of different kinds of technologies going there. So let's just go to the first clip now. This is what I call, this is apart from Astronaut. This is a piece I did with the NSC about 6 or 7 years ago, writing the sound and the composition. And what it does is actually looks at the idea of, explores that notion of producing a different kind of sound arena. And within the centre, the ideas of perception, you've got inside the body. It's a journey through the body and then into outer space. So what you've actually got is this idea of different wings of sound. You've got the claustrophobia within inside the body, and then you've got beyond that a head space, and then you've got the mission control space, and beyond that the pad sound. This is the concept of the piece. And then also you've got this idea of sequential. You're going from contained space into infinite space. And also it involves this idea of embodied sound, the musicality of integrated sound effects and the musical forces as sound effects. So again, it's another technique. It's this crossover between sound effects and orchestra, or orchestral or musical, let's say, musical parts. Okay.
Computers now controlling vehicle functions. T-minus 20 seconds. T-minus 15.